You guys guessed it, back again. Another video, another offseason video, and this time we're going to explore the New York Giants and how they have their work cut out for them this offseason. This is the second video back on Nick Silver's Productions, so please hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, show me some love. So, all right, here we go. We're just going to dive right into this. The Giants have a lot of work to do this offseason. It's going to get ugly over in New York. So let's talk about the salary cap, and this is the biggest issue. We're going to flip back and forth between this and my next the next things I want to show you guys, because we're gonna have to talk some numbers. So I excluded a couple key guys from here: Andrew Thomas, Kadarius Toney, Daniel Jones, because we all know either they're good or they're young and they're going to be on the team for sure next year. So we're not going to talk about their cap hits, but these are the cap hits. The Giants are currently around $12 million over the cap. And this expected draft class is going to take at least $13 million to sign, considering they do have 2 first-round picks. So let's just jump into it. Leonard Williams is number one. I think Leonard Williams is a subject for a potential restructure. Maybe. I know Shane doesn't really want to. We're gonna talk about Joe Shane. Joe Shane is the guy who's unfortunately, but fortunately, tasked to fix the New York Giants. So Leonard Williams is going to cost them $27.3 million this year. I don't see them getting out from under that. He costs a lot. You can't trade him because of his contract. You're not going to want to trade him. He has a ton of dead cap money. Leonard Williams is here to stay. James Bradberry is an interesting one. They restructured his deal a couple times, and this is the big payday. He was scheduled to make maybe around $14 million a year, and now he's making 21 because the Giants kept pushing money back into this year. A terrible job by ownership to let Dave Gettleman do that to the team and put them in this position. We're going to go over James Bradberry. Kenny Golladay and Adoree Jackson, 2 free agent signings from last year. One was great, one was not. Kenny Golladay, that was not a signing that worked out year one, but let's not forget the Giants had a lot of issues, and we're going to talk about them a little bit, but not too much in this video. We're just going to talk in this video how the Giants have the toughest offseason of any NFL team right now outside the New Orleans Saints. Blake Martinez carries a $14 million cap hit this season. That's an interesting one, potential cap casualty. Staying with Sterling Shepard, he has a $12.495 million cap hit. However, Sterling Shepard, by cutting him, you'd only save around $4.5 million. Logan Ryan's another one. You'd save around $9 million for cutting Logan Ryan. Kyle Rudolph, this is one I think that's pretty obvious for a lot of fans. And then the questions become a little further down. Saquon Barkley, Devontae Booker. If you're pinching pennies, you're probably going to draft the backup running back. You're not going to keep Devontae Booker. And Saquon Barkley, do you keep him? Do you trade him? Get into that a little bit. Riley Dixon, I think, is a guaranteed cut. Probably the worst punter in the NFL. Don't even get me started. Nick Gates is an interesting one, especially because he had a little bit of an issue. He had no issues in his career, and then unfortunately he suffered that gruesome leg injury, and I hope everything works out with him, but he could be a cap casualty. And Darius Slayton, because I think of game snaps played, has earned a $2 million bonus, which pretty much almost guaranteeing to make him a cap casualty. So let's talk about these guys, and this is Joe Shane. So the Giants hire the Bills' assistant general manager, Joe Shane, to fix the mess. All right, so I think most people are very comfortable with this hire. I think a lot of people know that the Giants really got somebody here. And, so the Giants are in the right hands with the general manager. So we're not going to talk about coaches and stuff yet. We're going to get down to the line. But first, let's talk cuts. So Kyle Rudolph's an easy cut. I think there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You look back here, a $7 million cap hit this year. And last year, what did he have? Minimal production. Minimal production for Kyle Rudolph last year. Honestly, I thought maybe this would be a good red zone guy, but the Giants never got to the red zone. And when they did, he was not. He was a non-factor. Unfortunate for Kyle Rudolph. I thought this was going to be a signing that would work out for them. I thought, he would be a good blocker, help them out there, but it didn't matter. The Giants are terrible all around. They have a lot of issues to fix this offseason. But we're going to go into next. We're going to talk about these two, Bradberry, Martinez. 2 signings from the same free agent class. And 2 signings that worked out for Joe Judge the first time, but the second year and the contract restructure, it's a little tough. So let's state back here. James Bradberry carries a 2022 cap hit of $21.8 million. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money for James Bradberry. And listen, I think James Bradberry is a good player. I think he's a solid player, top 10 cornerback in the NFL. But that's an issue. It's a problem. We're going to go over Blake next, but we're talking James now. It's a problem. James Bradberry had a good year, a solid year last year. He started off very poorly, and we're not gonna sugarcoat it. He was bad in the beginning of the year. However, I will say he got much better as the year went on, and even when the season was lost, he played his butt off. And you know what, that resonates. If Shane and Bill Daboll, the new head coach of the New York Giants, are watching film, they may think, you know what, he may cost a lot, but we got to keep this guy because he worked his tail off every play, even after the season was lost. That's something to think about when it comes to James Bradberry. And Blake Martinez unfortunately suffered an season-ending injury in Week 3 last year. He tore his ACL against the Atlanta Falcons at home. Blake carries, again, a cap hit of $14 million this season. I think Blake is the prime candidate on this list for a restructure. I think they don't want to do that, but first of all, you can't get rid of Blake Martinez. You saw what happened. The defense was still okay last season when Martinez went down, but you watched. They were a different unit. They missed that guy in the middle. Tate Crowder is no Blake Martinez. You're not going to pick up a Blake Martinez in this draft. I know they got guys out there like Nakobe Dean, but no, the Giants, I don't see them picking a linebacker that early. I think Blake Martinez is here to stay. He loves the Giants. He wants to be there, and that says the same for the next guy I'm going to talk about. I think Blake Martinez, I think they're going to try to work something out. But Blake Martinez, James Bradberry, two potential cap casualties. They need to get under their salary. But this is the guy that hurts the most to talk about. We love young Sterling Shepard. He's a Giant through and through. Giant fans love him. And last year, I think, was by far, he missed a lot of time, but I think it was the most talented I've ever seen him look. He looked faster, stronger, more agile. Whatever workouts he was doing in the offseason, they worked, man. He looked awesome at times. But same problem with Shepard his entire career. He can't stay on the field, and I think it comes to a head this year. Unfortunately, I do think the Giants are going to move on from Sterling. I believe they will cut him. He, again, like I said earlier, is about a $12.5 million contract hit. However, unfortunately for him, the Giants will only save $4 million by cutting him. If Sterling Shepard says, "Listen, I'll take that $4 million off. Give it to me down the line, or I'll take it off. I want to be here," I'm sure the Giants will keep him around. But it's hard to see, especially coming off an Achilles tear, a major injury, his first real major injury. But Achilles tears are no joke. You really don't often see players recover from injuries like Achilles injuries. They're just very difficult to come back from a rehab standpoint and explosiveness standpoint. I hope he gets better. I hope he finds a place, and I hope he stays in New York, but unfortunately, it doesn't look like it might be. But let's talk Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley is the most interesting part of this, right? So, first off, and most importantly, the Giants do not have an offensive line, period. They have not had an offensive line. It's progressively gotten worse since he's been drafted, and his numbers have gone down since he's been drafted, and injuries are a big part of this. Last year, let's talk last year. So he's coming off a major ACL tear, and it was not just an ACL tear. And a lot of people say, "Oh, well, this guy came back from it." Saquon did not just tear his ACL back in 2020. Saquon tore his ACL and almost tore his MCL. His MCL was so badly damaged they had to put off surgery for his ACL until the swelling went down. Saquon was beat up pretty bad by that injury against the Chicago Bears back in 2020. Now, this year when he came back, he was a little rusty for the first 2 games, but he looked awesome. Week 3 against Atlanta, he started looking better, and Week 4 against the Saints, he was unbelievable. And of course, to his poor luck, poor Saquon against Dallas steps on somebody's ankle. I'm starting to think it's luck with this guy. I feel terrible for him. But the Giants need a guy who's going to stay on the field, and Booker did stay on the field for them, although he's not Saquon Barkley. They did not block for Saquon Barkley like they blocked for Devontae Booker. I think, because, again, Booker doesn't command 8 guys in the box. Saquon Barkley does. It's that sort of thing where you need to understand where their production's like, maybe Booker had a better season. Saquon was going up against something different than Booker, and that's what people don't understand. So a lot of people are Saquon sympathizers. I would say I'm somewhat of a Saquon sympathizer, but I also understand what needs to be done here. I think they need to keep Barkley. I think I'm not holding on to something that was from 4 years ago, 2018. I'm telling you that you cannot trade Saquon Barkley. You made that investment with the second overall pick, and either you got to roll with it or you got to cut ties. And I think rolling with it is the only option they have. The offensive line should get better this year. I anticipate them being very active in the draft and possibly in free agency if they can clear up some cap rooms with some of these guys on the offensive line. I think they have one guy, and we're going to talk about this guy later. But I think Saquon Barkley deserves one last chance to prove he could do it. We are just 3 full seasons removed from when he led the league in scrimmage yards. Like, he was that dominant, and he looked dominant at times this season. But he should have never even came back from that ankle injury. I think the Giants should have probably held him out the last couple games this year, although that would have made it easier for fans to turn on Barkley, which they are already starting to do. I don't think he was healthy enough to play, but I think he has a lot of pride, and I think he's trying to get his head right. Now, that's the most important thing. I think when Barkley gets his head right, I think the play on the field will follow. I think there's a little bit of hesitation, which he never had before. And I think over time, you saw it was starting to go away. When he came back from that ankle injury, and man, that ankle was swollen like a softball. He was badly injured with the ankle. I think you saw the game against Chicago Bears. He had 22 carries for 100 yards. First 100-yard game in a long time on the ground, not combination. He looked good. Like, he looked strong. He looked agile. He looked punishing. And Saquon is a 240-pound back. As a part of it that frustrates me and a lot of other fans is I want to see him run through a guy. Don't always, you can run around. I know you can. Sometimes you just got to punish a guy. And teams will respect you more for doing that. And they will play you differently. And you can get some of those bigger runs. Because, if you're starting to punish guys, they're going to back off a little bit. When they back off a little bit, you can hit them with that move and you're gone. So that's a part of Saquon that we need to see, along with some of the vision stuff. His vision's okay. Everyone complains. All these old heads complain, he's got bad vision, just hit the hole. There's no holes to be hit half the time. So you got to understand, it's not just about that. Where's he running? Into the back of a lineman? Yeah, why? Because the lineman was pushed 3 yards into the backfield. I think you understand what I'm trying to say now. So that's Saquon, okay? I believe they should keep him. I believe they will keep Saquon. And who knows after that? We're not going to get into contract discussions, especially with an oft-injured back who was drafted 2nd overall and is already still being paid $7 million. Next, I'm going to talk about the quarterback, Daniel Jones. I believe Daniel Jones is a staple, and he will stay for 2022. Will he stay longer than that? I don't know. It will depend on his play this year. And I think a big part about Daniel Jones that we need to understand is what John Mara said when they were hiring the new general manager and the new head coach. They did everything in their power to screw up Daniel Jones. I mean, his rookie year, he had 28 total touchdowns in just 12 games. 12 games, 28 total touchdowns. Know what I'm saying? I understand he had turnovers. That's a rookie thing. But the production was there. And he had 5 300-plus yard passing games under Pat Shurmur. And Pat Shurmur's a terrible coach, okay? And I'm still on that. Look what he did in Denver. Nothing after he left the Giants as a coordinator. But when you brought in Jason Garrett, you set this kid back 2 years. Because he has had one 300-yard passing game since then. One. And that was against the New Orleans Saints this year where he threw for 317 yards, and the Giants looked great. They looked fantastic that game. That was the only game they looked great all year. And realistically, Daniel Jones could score at a high clip, but we've seen it. We have seen it. He's the only rookie in NFL history to have multiple 300-plus yard to have 4 or 5 300-plus yard games and 4+ touchdowns in those games. He's one of the only players to do it, and he could score at a high clip. The Giants did everything in their power to screw him up. Do I think Daniel Jones is an elite quarterback? No. Do I think he can be an elite quarterback? No. I think Daniel Jones could be a good quarterback. I think we overrate Derek Carr a little bit. I like Derek Carr. I appreciate Derek Carr. I think he could be Derek Carr. And they brought Brian Daboll in, and that's my next point. Brian Daboll. This was the best hire of any coach in the league, and I don't even think it's a question. I think Josh McDaniels was also a very good hire, and I think O'Connell was a good hire by Minnesota. However, Brian Daboll built Josh Allen. He helped build Josh Allen, right? So people don't understand. Brian Daboll was hired by the Buffalo Bills in 2018 when they drafted Josh Allen. Josh Allen, just this raw, talented, strong-arm kid, and who we now know is possibly the 3rd best quarterback in the league, one of the top 10 player in the NFL. He's amazing. And Brian Daboll played no small part in that. Absolutely. He first off, he made a makeshift offensive line where Allen's mobile. He is. But he made an offensive line where Allen will hold up enough. Because, again, he was the offensive coordinator. He couldn't do everything. He didn't have contracts. He didn't do the free agent signings. He was working with what he was given. He was given an okay offensive line, and he schemed so well around it that Josh Allen had 2 MVPs. He didn't win the MVP in the last season because Rodgers was just even better than him. But I would argue that he was number 2 or number 3 in both those seasons. Josh Allen is a monster. He's unbelievable. Shout out to the Bills fans and the Bills Mafia. I mean, they have a real superstar on their hands, and this man helped build him. And I think the best thing that happened to Daniel Jones and the Giants was they hired Brian Daboll. I think the fact is, Dabes, as he likes to be called, will put the Giants in the best position to win. I think he will put Saquon in the best position. I think he will put Daniel Jones in the best position to win. Look what he did for Stephon Diggs' career. Diggs was an okay 5th-round receiver, and now he's a superstar because of Brian Daboll and Josh Allen. So I think if he can get that Jones-Galladay thing going, he can get Barkley going on the ground like he used Singletary towards the end of the season, I think the Giants' offense has a very bright future. And, I think there's one player on this team, and I'm going to say this is the best player on the Giants by far. It's Andrew Thomas. Andrew Thomas is an absolute monster. He's a superstar. This guy is your franchise left tackle. You really hit on something here. 500-plus pass snaps. I think 1 sack, 8 total pressures all season. That's unbelievable. Shout out to Andrew Thomas. I want to give a quick shout out to Andrew Thomas. Great job this season, and I look forward to seeing what Andrew Thomas can do for the Giants in the future. But that was really it for this video. Thank you guys for watching another Nick Silver's Productions video. Please check out all the videos I got on the channel, and we're going to keep going with more off-season predictions and deep dives on certain teams. Thank you guys, and we'll catch you next time.